Do you want to read? Somebody want to read the hadith? Sister, brother? Go ahead. Yes. Both, if you can. Be nice. حبان أحسنتي. Very good. So this hadith Rafi' ibn خديج رضي الله عنه قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أصبحوا بالصبح فإنه أعظم لأجوركم. Narrated Rafi' that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said أصبحوا بالصبح, which is basically in your binder it says offer the morning or the Fajr prayer at dawn, or observe the morning prayer till daybreak. Make sure that your salat al-fajr is in the end of the time, as your reward will be greater. Reported by the five imams, which is basically Abu Dawood wa at-Tirmidhi wa an-Nasa'i wa Ibn Majah wa Ahmad. And he said that Imam al-Tirmidhi consider it as hadithun sahih. Actually, Tirmidhi said hasanun sahih. And Ibn Hibban said it is an authentic narration. Anybody knows who is Ibn Hibban? Who's Ibn Hibban? Man who Ibn Hibban? We hear this name a lot. He is Al-Imam Abu Hatim Muhammad. His name is Muhammad ibn Hibban Al-Tamimi Al-Darimi Al-Busti. And he is from the same country of Abu Sulaiman Al-Khattabi. He wrote a very, very famous book. It's called Maram al-Sunan. One of my favorite book when it comes to explaining the ahadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Maram al-Sunan is a very unique explanation for Sunan Abi Dawood. And what made that book a very unique book is the commentary of Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah on that book. Anyway, Ibn Hibban is a genius of his time. Literally, he is a genius. And I do believe that Ibn Hibban did not get his due attention and focus by a lot of students of knowledge. He wrote a book, a collection of hadith, that he said that I will only collect what he considered an authentic. That's why it's called Sahih ibn Hibban, the authentic narration. And Ibn Hibban rahimahullah is not just an A scholar, he is an outstanding scholar. That book, Sahih ibn Hibban, قال رويت فيه عن ألفي شيخ. I narrate this book from 2,000 teachers that I travel the Muslim world all the way from where he used to live, which is today part of, Kyrgyzia and Azerbaijan and this part of Central Asia. He said all the way to Alexandria and the Arabic Peninsula or the Arab Peninsula. Can you imagine all this land? He traveled all around all this land, studying from the scholars, and he said, I heard from 2,000 teachers, and from them I collect this book. That's why Dhahabi rahimahullah said, هكذا فلتكن الهمم. That's an inspiring story. 2,000, thousands and thousands of miles that he crossed, rahimahullah ta'ala. And Ibn Hibban wrote his book in a way that he wanted to be very unique, but he have done something terrible to himself, which is he made his book unpopular at all, not popular at all. His book is a very hard to use, and it became abandoned by the ulama and the scholars because they couldn't understand him. They couldn't understand how to access the book. And that's why his book actually lost. The actual book of Ibn Hibban was lost. And that's what happened to you when you became too complicated. And sometimes I say to myself, maybe I am losing my students sometimes because I make things complicated in my commentary on Bulugh Maram and other books. So people turn away and don't like this complicity of knowledge. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create people in different ways. He wrote a book known as Sahih ibn Hibban, otherwise it's called At-Taqasim wal-Anwa'. His actual name, Al-Musnad al-Sahih على التقاسيم والأنواع من غير وجود قطع في سندها ولا ثبوت جرح في ناقليها. He said that this is basically a book where all the authentic completion of narrations of ahadith, that all the narrator are trustworthy, none of them has been criticized or is not worthy of narrating the hadith, and it is classified in different categories. And that's what made it complicated. He said, rahimahullah ta'ala, I divided this book. You know, usually when you look to the books of hadith, there is two ways, the famous ways. One, it's called Al-Musnad, which is, you see Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, then all the hadith of Abu Bakr. Okay? Umar, all the hadith of Umar. Abu Hurairah, all the hadith of Abu Hurairah. So you have the narrator, then all the hadith of the narrator, then the companion. That's one way. The other way is, the hadith will be based on the subject. First chapter is what? Purification. All the hadith talk about water, about wudu, about the breaking the wudu, about shower. So based on the topic, salah, zakat, you following? He came with a completely different way. He came and he said, no, my book will be divided into 5 main categories. 1, the obligations. 2, the forbidden. 3, the things that you need to know. 4, the permissible things. 5, the special actions of the Prophet ﷺ. Things the Prophet did, and he is the only one allowed to do it. So the orders and the prohibition, in these orders, he classified it to tens of categories. The highest level of order, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, then he looked at the orders of Sharia and he said the orders of Sharia are not one level, and the forbidden things in Sharia are not one level. Yani, for example, it's forbidden for you to sit in the masjid. The Prophet said, don't sit before you pray 2 rak'ah. He said he prohibited you to sit before praying. But also he prohibited you to drink alcohol. Are they in the same level? Huh? He prohibited you to say bad words to your mom or to your dad. Are they in the same level? No. So he said, if this is the case, he classified these prohibitions to many levels, and the orders to so many levels. And every category, he looked at the hadith and he said, okay, it fits in that level, and he put it. It fits in that level. He came up with 360 something categories. So if you find the hadith, now you need to look for it. How are you going to look for it? You have to try to figure out in which category it fits in these 300 plus. That's why it became what? Almost impossible to find the narrations in this book. You get lost. What he was hoping the people will memorize it. He will force people to take his classification. And that's a very advanced writing in the science of usul al-fiqh, the principles of fiqh. Anyway, the book was criticized not only by the complicity of the way it was written, but also because he narrated many ahadith from people who are unknown. Anyway, the book only survived because Ibn Balban rahimahullah came and he took this book and he wrote all the ahadith in alphabetic order. So Ibn Balban's book, which is on the alphabetic order, that's the one that survived today. But the good news is Ibn Balban saved for us what? The categorizations that Ibn Hibban wrote in the introductions. So we get to know a little bit about his way of thinking and his methodology. And that's something that those who are specialists in ilm usul fiqh, متخصصين في الفقه وأصولي, unfortunately, very few who care to study what Ibn Hibban rahimahullah said في المقدمة. I just wanted to know that al-ulama rahimahumullah, when they classified the most authentic books in hadith, they said al-Bukhari, Muslim, and after that Ahmad Shakir rahimahullah said comes Ibn Khuzaymah, then number 4 Ibn Hibban, according to Ahmad Shakir rahimahullah. I might not,
In this day and age, digital age, Control F, you get there and then you get the information. Is that more easier now?
It is, but the problem is his original work is lost. His original work, the beauty of it, because you understand. Okay, so when you read a text, would you know, is this forbidden or is dislike? It is highly forbidden or just forbidden? It is one of the major sins or just a sin? It's one of the severe major sins or just a major sin? You see? So his classification will help you to see these different categories. And it helps you a lot as a student of knowledge, especially those young Muslims, and especially those who newly religious, not to take the religion black and white. So they think forbidden is just one lump sum, kida haram, and wajib, it's what everything is wajib in one piece. No, the wajibat are so many levels, and the muharramat so many levels, the recommended act so many levels, and the makruh, the dislike, so many levels. Because in real life, we have to make always a decision to choose between less evil, between the better good. So understanding this concept of, or studying the work of Ibn Hibban will help you to have that mindset. Anyway, going back to the hadith, sorry. He said, أصبحوا بالصبح, delay the morning prayer until dawn, or pray the morning prayer at dawn. Asbihu comes from الصبح, which it means when the light about to come. Okay? And it means that in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in this hadith telling us to pray at the end of the time. At the end of the time. طيب. This hadith, there is a lot of basically rules and benefits we will comment or derive from. Number 1, this hadith is the foundation for the Hanafis, who said the sunnah to pray Fajr at the end of the time. You don't pray Fajr right at the beginning of the time. We studied before, if you remember, that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to pray and they would not know who's the person next to him because it's still dark. And we read many ahadith where the companion said the Prophet used to pray Fajr in the beginning of the time. But this hadith, the Nabi say, pray Fajr at the end of the time. And that's what the Hanafi rahimahullah said. and said you should yusfir, يعني you wait until the light are very near to come by the end of Fajr time. The Shafi'i, the Maliki, the Hanbali, the vast majority of the Muslim scholars through history said the opposite. They said the sunnah is to pray Fajr in the early time, not to delay Fajr at the end. Why? Because of the hadith we mentioned before. كان يصلي بغلس. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray at غلس, which it means when it's dark. Okay? فأقام الفجر حين انشق الفجر. When the Fajr just start, he prayed صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. He will read 100 verses, and after the 100 verse, you will get to recognize who's the person next to you. But before that, you wouldn't know who's the person next to you because it's still dark. And al-Bukhari reported that Aisha radiallahu anha said, كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray Fajr in the dark time, not in the end of the Fajr time, in the beginning of Fajr. And he said, the woman will leave, okay, and we will not know each other. So the woman will leave after Salah, and none of us will know whose woman this woman is, because it's still dark. And also there is another hadith Qayla bint Makhrama. She said, I came to the Prophet ﷺ, came to Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ was praying Fajr. And she said, he made the Salah, he made the Iqamah, حين انشق الفجر, in the beginning of Fajr. And you can still see the stars in the sky. And men could not see or recognize one another because it's dark. Abu Dawood also reported, and I'm telling you so many narrations, Abu Dawood reported that Harmalah al-Anbari said, I came to the Prophet ﷺ and I prayed Fajr with him. And when the Salah finished, I looked at people, I couldn't recognize them because I couldn't see their faces. It's still very dark. And I told you before that in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Masjid has no lights on it, no candles. But question, if all these narrations saying this, how can we understand Hadith Rafi'? The Prophet said, pray Fajr in the end of the time, when it is near dawn. How can we understand this? These are several ahadith contradict this. How the ulama rahimahullah understood this? The ulama rahimahullah said Hadith Rafi' could be understood in one of the following ways. Number one, that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Asfiru bis-subh. Asfiru, what asfiru means? Make sure that the Fajr started. Linguistically, the word asfiru, it doesn't mean near dawn. That's the Hanafi understanding of it. But the Arabic language does not really necessitate that understanding. The Arabic language, asfiru means, يعني you pray Fajr when the Fajr 100% came. Okay? When the Fajr 100% there. Why? They said because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam want to make sure that the companion will not pray Fajr because of the false Fajr. You remember when I told you there's two Fajr, a true and false. The false is a light that comes straight in the middle of the sky. The true Fajr goes to the horizon. So in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, when asfiru, yani when you see the light coming, which is the one in the horizon, that's when you pray Fajr. So the hadith really does not say anything about praying in the beginning of time or end of time. No, the hadith only means make sure you pray Fajr when the true Fajr comes. Okay? And because sometimes you might be confused and you might pray Fajr before the right time. And even there is some stories that some of the Sahaba pray Fajr before time, thinking that the Fajr started it. That's why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam corrected them and he said, be careful. Pray Fajr when the true Fajr comes. And many times the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam warned the Sahaba from that. This understanding, Al-Imam Al-Tirmidhi said, That's how Imam al-Shafi'i understood Hadith Rafi'. And that's how Imam Ahmad understood Hadith Rafi'. And that's how Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. By the way, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh is an Imam equal to Ahmad, equal to Shafi'i, has his own madhab, rahimahullah. He's a great scholar, is very famous. These three Imams said that this is what Hadith Rafi' means. Ibn Hibban, rahimahullah, he said, maybe this hadith, asfiru, يعني wait a little bit, delay the Salat al-Fajr a little bit. He said, maybe this has to do with al-layali al-muqmira, the night when the moon is full moon. Can anybody tell me why Ibn Hibban said that? Yeah, when it is full moon, okay, in the full moon, you will not be able to tell the Fajr time because it's very light, okay? It kind of confuses you. So you might make Salat al-Fajr before the true time of Fajr comes, when it's full moon. That's we said, so Ibn Hibban said maybe the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said this in regard to the nights when the moon is full. But I don't agree with that. Why? Because the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, فَإِنَّهُ أَعْظَمُ لِلْأَجْرِ. There is more reward in that. Okay? So the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is talking about delaying it because there is more ajr in it. The second understanding, قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that the Nabi صلى الله عليه وسلم said, أسفروا بالفجر. The word أسفروا, it means prolong your recitation in Fajr. So when you pray Fajr, pray long prayer. So by the time you end your prayer, you will be at the time when the light start coming out. So it's not talk about the beginning of the salah, talk about the end of the salah. That you should end the salah when the light is coming out. That's why Umar radiallahu anhu wrote to Abu Musa al-Ash'ari a letter, and in it he said, وَصَلُّوا الصُّبْحِ, pray Fajr prayer, بِغَلَس أو بِسَواد, when it's dark, وَأَطِيلُوا الْقِرَاءَةِ, but make the recitation long, reported by Al-Bayhaqi. And this understanding, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah supported more than the first one. And that's what also Al-Imam al-Tahawi, the great Hanafi scholars, mentioned. And some of the fuqaha and the scholar of hadith agreed with it. And there is a very famous Indian scholar, his name Abu al-Hasanat al-Laknawi, rahimahullah ta'ala, supported that opinion, and he said that's the best understanding of this hadith Rafi'. And maybe this hadith Rafi', if we understand it this way, it go with the previous hadith that we studied, that the Nabi used to read 60 to 100 verses. Okay? Number 3. Al-ulama rahimahullah said, no, maybe this hadith Rafi', okay, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam ordered them at one point to delay Fajr Iqamah to the end of the time, because he noticed among his companions it was hard for them to pray Fajr in the beginning of the time. So maybe this was a special case, and maybe in the summertime, because in the summertime the night is what? Shorter. So when it's night, when the summertime comes, we pray Fajr a little bit late, so people will have more time maybe to sleep and to rest, so they will not come early. And that opinion was mentioned by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Not that he supported it, but he mentioned that. Number 4. Some scholars said, this hadith Rafi', even though it's an authentic narration, but this one narration, and it's not in al-Bukhari, is not in Muslim. It's not in one of the books of the Sahihain. And it's only one narration. And it was contradicted by dozens of narrations. So many narrations. And these narrations are in al-Bukhari wa Muslim. And more authentic than this narration. Saying that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray late, not in the beginning of the time. In the beginning of the time, he will not delay Fajr prayer. So they said, if this is the case, we will say that Hadith Rafi' is rejected and weak because it contradicts the other narrations. Okay? And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned that. And he said, this Hadith Rafi' contradicts Hadith Aisha, Jabir, Abi Barza, Abu Musa, Ibn Mas'ud. And several companions reported, not that the Nabi said one incident, no, he used to pray Fajr early in that time. And that led to a fifth opinion, that some ulama said, Hadith Rafi' has been abrogated. Hadith Rafi' been abrogated. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned that as well. And been abrogated, why? They said in the beginning of Islam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said Hadith Rafi', that you pray Fajr late. But later on, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed that and he stopped praying Fajr in the beginning of the time. And whenever we say abrogated, we need proof. Where is the proof that this is abrogated? They said, we do have. What you have? They said, في حديث أبي مسعود الأنصاري البدري رضي الله عنه, that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam prayed Fajr once in the night, in the beginning of the time, بغلس. Then the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam prayed after that in the end of the time, asfar. But the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam later on continued praying Fajr in the beginning of the time until he died. And this hadith reported by Abi Dawood, and Al-Khattabi said it's an authentic narration, and Al-Shawkani rahimahullah said this hadith, the narrator of it are the narrators who exist in the Bukhari or Muslim. طيب. So this hadith clearly stating that the Nabi sallallahu in the end, he prayed once in the beginning, once in the end of the time, but later on he continued praying only in the beginning of the time, as if was abrogated. So here I want to say interesting point for you to keep in mind for those who benefit. Al-Ahnaf, the Hanafi scholars, have a style. Whenever they found contradicting narrations, one of the first things that they look at, they said, this one abrogate this one. They're looking for the issue of abrogations. Al-Jumhur, they said, no. We should not look for, we should not be hasty, and we should not always choose the option of one abrogate the another. Why? يقولون لأن الإعمال أفضل من الإهمال. They said, using both narrations better than dropping one of them. Okay? Why would we? Because if you said this abrogated hadith, this becomes useless narration. Cancel it. They said, why would we cancel it? We can keep it, we can use it, we can use both, we can reconciliate. I do believe the Hanafi position is correct if the abrogations mansus alayh. If the abrogation, there is a proof, an explicit proof saying that was abrogated. In this case, we should not look for reconciliation. But if the abrogations is a guessing, is not an explicit, it's I think it is, that's an opinion, no. We try to reconciliate better. Also, the Hanafi have another method, which is they say, if we could not reconcile between both of them, we drop both. تعارض فتساقط. Al-Jumhur, they said no. Again, Jumhur said we use both better than drop both. Also, a lot of ulama rahimahullah said we don't jump to choose one over the other, like what you heard here in the fourth and the third, they said this one more authentic than this one. And ulama said, why would we do that? If we can reconciliate and use both evidence, better than just saying this week and this is more authentic. They don't like that kind of approach. Anyway, so that's the first evidence that the Hanafi have to prove the issue of what? Of saying that Fajr should be delayed. Is this the only proof that the Hanafi have? No. They also have another evidence saying that the Nabi ﷺ prayed Fajr late. And they said, Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh said, ما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى صلاة لغير ميقاتها إلا صلاتين. That the Nabi ﷺ did not pray two prayers in my lifetime, not in the appropriate time except two prayers. I didn't see the Prophet did not pray the Salah in its appropriate time except two prayers. جمع بين المغرب والعشاء بجمع يعني بالمزدلفة. That the Nabi ﷺ prayed Isha early, before its time when he was in Muzdalifah. He combined between Maghrib and Isha, before Isha time. Which is never saw him did this before. وصلى الفجر يومئذ لغير ميقاتها. And he said, and in Nabi ﷺ that day, he prayed Fajr not according to his habit. Not according to its time. Yani he doesn't mean they pray Fajr before Fajr time or after Fajr time. No, not in it is regular time. What he means by that? The Hanafi said, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, anybody knows when we pray Fajr in Muzdalifah? Anybody been to Hajj? Huh? In Muzdalifah we pray Fajr right after the Adhan. Immediately after the Adhan. Why? حتى نقف بالمشعر الحرام. Because the dua in Muzdalifah, in Nabi ﷺ prayed Fajr, then he was stood in a place called Al-Mash'ar Al-Haram. He stood and he made a lot of dua until the sun came up. So Ibn Mas'ud noticed that Nabi ﷺ prayed Fajr in the beginning of the time in Muzdalifah. How this support the Hanafi position? Because he said, Ibn Mas'ud, he prayed it basically not in its regular time. And he prayed early at the beginning of the time. So that means in other days, when he's in Medina and regular days, he delayed. But in this time, he only, first time in life, to notice that he prayed Fajr in the beginning of the time. Okay? That's basically what their other proof that the incident of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anh wa arda. We will say Ibn Mas'ud's statement contradicted by other people's statements. So you can take Ibn Mas'ud over others. But if you are familiar with a little bit of the history of the Hanafi madhab, the Hanafi madhab heavily influenced by the opinions of Ibn Mas'ud. Anybody knows why? Because Abu Hanifa, where he lived? In Kufa. And who lived in Al-Kufa? Ibn Mas'ud is the Imam of Al-Kufa. His students lived in Al-Kufa. Then the student of Mas'ud's lived. They had students, and the student of Mas'ud taught Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. Okay? So that's why he heavily influenced by Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu wa arda. The majority's opinion is a strong opinion because of the evidence that we mentioned. Allah alam. But I would say the best way to look into this, in my opinion, is this. We say that praying Fajr in the beginning of the time is the best. But if there is need to delay, we should delay. Let's say here in America, if we think that delaying Fajr prayer will accommodate more people to come to the Salah, yes. It will be better for the community, like Isha. The Isha, the better to delay it. But we make it early to accommodate the congregation. So these ahadith from the Nabi ﷺ give basically a space or give us an options to do what is more suitable. An-Nasa'i rahimahullah said that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prayed Fajr in the beginning of the time in residency and traveling. And he mentioned Hadith in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that he prayed Fajr in Khaybar at the beginning of time. I forgot to tell you for the story of Mas'ud that he said the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prayed not according to the regular habit of him, because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not wait any time. In Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam usually after Fajr he will wait a little bit for people to pray. And by the way, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam after he prayed Sunnat al-Fajr he used to go and lay down on his side. كان يضجع ضجعة خفيفة, and the Sahaba used to do that in the back of the masjid just for a little bit, like maybe 10 minutes or so, then they will pray. Okay, so but in Muzdalifah that was not the habit. He made it immediately, but it doesn't mean he waited 30-40 minutes or 30 minutes until the sun about to come out, like the Isfar, like the Hanafi say. What the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam means by his saying فَإِنَّهُ أَعْظَمُ لِأُجُورِكُمْ? Why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the reward is greater? Can anybody tell me? Why delaying Salat al-Fajr? So here either we say you literally delay Fajr until the end of the time, or you pray a long prayer until the end of the time. Why this will be more greater in ajr and reward? Reading more Quran means what? More reward. So if the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said asfiru, yani make your recitation long until you end at the end of Fajr time, that means longer prayer, more reward. That's right? That's right? Or we say, if we take the Hanafi position, which is to delay Fajr, how this can be more reward? Because you're waiting for the Salah. And in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال أنت في الصلاة ما زلت تنتظر الصلاة. You are in Salah as long as you're waiting for Salah. So that's why al-ulama rahimahullah said that's what it means. You're waiting for the Salah, even though you're going to pray later on, but there is this long time, not because you want to go sleep, because basically you will be waiting for the Salah, and that means more recitation, more dua, and waiting for Salah, it will get you more ajr. So that's what this hadith means. Next. Yes. That's the next point. But the hadith that we're saying has nothing to do with, I didn't say anything about that. What I said is that you pray a long prayer, so you end your Fajr by near the end of the Fajr time.
Near, but not at the end.
Not after, no.
So I'll have to make sure I finish before then.
Yes. But we're going to talk, the next hadith speak about this issue. What if you pray part of your prayer in time and part of your prayer out the time? Let's say sunrise 7:10. I said Allahu Akbar 7:08. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawm. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar from sujood. Alhamdulillah, it's 7:11. Not the 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven. What will be the ruling? Did you pray? Did you catch Fajr or not? Listen to what the Prophet said. Yes. Anybody read. Whoever has the microphone, read.
وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من أدرك من الصبح ركعة أدرك الصبح ومن أدرك ركعة من العصر قبل أن تغرب الشمس فقد أدرك العصر متفق عليه. ولمسلم عن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها نحو وقال سجدة بدل ركعة ثم قال والسجدة إنما هي ركعة. Narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet ﷺ said, "He who prays a rak'ah of the Fajr prayer before the sun rises has offered the dawn prayer in its time, and he who prays a rak'ah of the Asr prayer before the sun sets has offered the afternoon prayer agreed upon." Muslim reported the same above hadith in another version narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha.
Same above is a wrong translation. Similar. Nahwahu, it means similar, because mithlahu will be same. And the scholar of hadith, they mean what they say. So if they say nahwahu wa mithlahu, a big difference. Mithlahu يعني exactly the same wording. Nahwahu, there is difference in wording.
Muslim reported a similar hadith in another version narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, narrated sajda prostration instead of rak'ah, prayer unit. And then Muslim said a sajda implies a rak'ah.
And what?
A sajda implies
No, who said that?
Muslim, Imam Muslim.
No, Muslim didn't say that. The Prophet ﷺ said that. No. وقال ثم قال, not Muslim. The hadith says السجدة إنما هي الركعة. The sajda is the rak'ah. The hadith says. So that's not a good translation. وقال السجدة بدل الركعة ثم قال والسجدة إنما هي الركعة. Then he said the sajda is the rak'ah in the hadith. So this hadith reported by Al-Bukhari rahimahullah and Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. So this hadith really deserved to be said, reported by the six. Hadith Aisha radiallahu anha in Sahih Muslim. And the word and the sajda innama hiya rak'ah. The sajda is rak'ah. Is it the statement from the Prophet ﷺ or statement from one of the narrator of the hadith? يعني هل هي من كلام النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أم هي مدرجة من كلام الرواة من أحد الرواة? There is a lot of debate between the scholars about that. As-San'ani rahimahullah leans towards, and Shawkani as well, that it is from the Prophet ﷺ. Many of the scholars of hadith said no, and that's what it seems to be. It's not from the Prophet ﷺ. It is from one of the narrator, but not Muslim. One of the narrators of the hadith said that. He added this as an explanation. And Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah said, هي مدرجة. It has been added to the hadith to explain that Aisha, when she said sajda, she meant rak'ah. So the word sajda equal to the word rak'ah. Okay? Because Al-Albani rahimahullah made a good point. He said, I looked and I researched all the narrations. Every single narration said rak'ah, except the only one said sajda is that one narration in Muslim. So that shows you that هذا شذوذ. This wording is odd. There's something not accurate about it. Or it was reported by meaning, بالمعنى. Because as we're going to know, the word whoever catch one sajda, it means catch one rak'ah. Because sajda, if you catch the sajda, you mean catch the rak'ah. Okay? Because the sajda comes on the end of the rak'ah. Anyway, we'll explain this a little bit more. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من أدرك ركعة, whoever catch one rak'ah, okay, from Asr or from Fajr, for whoever catch one rak'ah, what that means, catch one rak'ah. قال العلماء ركعة تامة. يعني it means a complete ركعة. الله أكبر, الحمد لله رب العالمين, الله أكبر ركوع, and 2 sujuds. So the condition to be considered you catch the salah is to do a full rak'ah. طيب? And that's what Imam bin Hajar rahimahullah, Nawawi, Shawkani, and many scholars said that. So whoever catch rak'ah, it means a full rak'ah from takbir all the way to the second sajda. Then he said, Man adraka sajda. In Hadith Aisha, she said, instead catch 1 rak'ah, catch 1 sajda. What she means by that, catch 1 sajda. We say, sajda, it's a metaphor. Like when I say, sometimes in Arabic language, even in English, we mention something, part of something, and we mean the whole thing. Okay? So for example, I say, I saw, for example, we say, ايش من أقول, everything will vanish except Allah's face. Is that means the rest of Allah will vanish? A'udhu billah? No. It means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as whole will not vanish. But I mention the face and I mean the whole entire entity of God. Okay? So it doesn't mean, that's a very common way in Arabic. So I say, for example, I was walking with his يعني بجنبه أو بجانبه. I was walking with your side. I don't mean like part of you only, like the whole body with me. Okay? So I mention part of you, but I mean the whole thing. Okay? I'm saying, talk about you came to my wedding, for example, or to my party, and I say, you know, your face was there with us, your smile with us in the evening. I don't mean your smile came by itself and your face is still at home. Okay, and your face came but your body stayed home. No, you're whole. But I mean, I take something from you and I mean the whole entire body. Common, understood. So they said, Aisha said, whoever catch sajda, she means catch the rak'ah. Okay, that's possible. Okay, and we'll tell you why she said that later on. Some other scholars said no. That also could means, and that's what complicated this hadith, this second understanding. Some ulama قالوا لا, من أدرك سجدة يعني من أدرك مقدار سجدة. Whoever catch sajda in salah, it means he catch as much as sujood. How long sujood takes? Minute, 2 minutes, half a minute. If you catch that much of salah, you have catch the salah. So it's not a full rak'ah. So that means if I said Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillahi Rabb, and it became 7-11, I catch the salah. But according to the first understanding, no, I have to finish my whole sujood before 7-11 when the sun rises. You see how the difference is? So that narration of Aisha, whoever catch sajda, opened the door for a very different understanding of the hadith. And the Imam Ibn Rajab rahimahullah mentioned that, he's a Hanbali scholar, in his explanation of Sahih Bukhari, it's also known as Fath al-Bari. And San'ani as well mentioned it in Subul al-Salam. And the sajda is the rak'ah. We talked about that. Is it the Prophet statement or the Rawi statement? Anyway, when the Prophet said, man adrak, whoever caught, whoever catch, الإدراك معناه في آخر الوقت. Catch, it means you got it before it ended. I catch this, opportunity, and the opportunity almost gone. I catch that animals, and almost the animals run away, but I catch it. I caught the prisoner before he escaped, and he's almost there, and I caught him. So when you say the Prophet, whoever caught one rak'ah or catch one rak'ah, that means you prayed this rak'ah at the end of the time, right at the end of the time of the salah. Yeah. Yalla, bismillah. Yeah, whenever the adhan comes. The salat is what time? Okay. So we'll end here. We'll continue inshallah next week. Next week is the last one before Ramadan? Yeah. It's the best for the last. Okay. This hadith has a lot of interesting discussions, and I'll make sure I will be here on time inshallah next week. We're going to have the adhan and iqamah right away.